staying safe during these times. So yeah, we're in the midst of some very, very interesting times, some unfortunate times, some unknown times, just interesting times in general. And over the last week, I've been interviewing a lot of other market experts, and we've been going over market conditions. We've been going over what people are seeing out there. It's interesting because in general, I've talked to just so many people in the real estate investing space, in just real estate agent space and brokers and things like that, just to figure out and get a good grasp of what's going on, what people are saying. And, everything's changing day by day. Things are just changing. It seems that a lot of real estate investors are still actively out there. A lot of them are being opportunistic. But the bottom line is I want to get Terry's input on what he believes. So just so you know, this conversation is not about the coronavirus. Obviously, it's very unfortunate of what's going on right now, but we're trying to be optimistic and proactive and, just be out there. We have precious businesses and families and things like that we want to take care of. And, we're going to focus on real estate for this particular topic. So Terry Royce, welcome.
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you? So what's your thoughts of what's going on right now in today's market?
It's definitely unique. Everybody's been talking about the market's going to crash. The market's going to crash. And people are saying this is a blip. This is short. So nobody really knows what's happening. But I don't think if it does lead to any kind of downturn that anybody would have saw it coming from something like this. So it's interesting. We're seeing a lot of activity still, and we're still looking to buy. We're actually getting ready to do a large marketing campaign to try to find deals. I've heard of a lot of big outfitters that many of you guys know that won't go into detail, but from reliable sources that they're like halting all their marketing altogether right now, just to wait and see. They'd rather take a defensive approach, which I get. But whether this thing lasts a day or a month or 6 months, people are always going to be looking to sell. And if we can be the ones that are in front of them, it'll just be more deals for us. So I just think you just got to look at changing your business a little bit, maybe, and tweaking and adjusting to whatever the environment is.
Yeah, obviously consumer confidence, I think, is somewhat down right now. That's one of the things we've seen, and I've shared this on other podcasts, or other interviews that I've done recently. We had a buyer, and I think you had a similar situation. Maybe we had a buyer that backed out the day of closing, and he just forgave his deposit. He was a little bit nervous, and I understand that. Who wouldn't be nervous? But then at the same time, we have one of our properties that's on the market right now, and we got an overpriced offer very, very quickly from somebody from a homeowner who wants to take advantage of the cheap interest rates and move forward with. So that was kind of positive times. I think in general, people are just uncertain. They're not sure. People want to play the waiting game and see what's up. And I don't fault them for that. But at the same time, I think there's also a lot of people that want to be opportunistic.
Yeah, for sure. I think you constantly have to be, like you said, opportunistic. I think I was listening to something you said, and it's something I say all the time, is even if you want to sit on the sidelines a little bit, that's fine, but you need to be active and you need to have your pulse on what's going on and whether it be values or activity, or, if we obviously do a lot of wholesaling. We also have a lot of buy and holds and stuff, but what are people buying? What's the appetite for buy and holds? What's the appetite for fixing? What is going on with lending? A lot of hard money loans going back. Just what's going on with what? If you jump out completely and just say, hey, I'm going to pause for a minute, you're going to be that much more behind the ball whenever you jump in.
That's right.
You don't need to be actively buying necessarily, but you need to be actively watching and networking and talking to people, know what's going on.
Very well put. Very well put. You don't have to be sidelined completely. I talked to somebody the other day, a fellow lender, hard money lender, that doesn't want to be involved in stuff right now. And I was like, so you're telling me that if someone comes to you and they just buy a property for $400,000 and it's a really strong deal, that you would give them $100,000? He's like, well, of course I would. And I was like, well, then, still in the game, you should be. Everyone can cut their criteria a little bit. We're cutting our criteria, hard money bankers. I want to lower our exposure, have our borrowers bring a little bit more cash to the table. because there is a little bit more uncertainty. But when you buy a property, when you lend on a property, when you buy a rental property, when you put a tenant in there, whatever it is, when you invest in any asset, buy a stock, for example, you're confident on that number. Yeah, it might go up, might go down a little bit, but you're still confident with that asset. And especially with longer term deals, fix and flip is a little bit different, but on longer term deals, and I was talking to Ian Horowitz about this. So you buy a property for 100 grand today and tomorrow it's worth 90 grand. Well, and you have it rented out and it's a long-term hold and there's a tenant in there. Who cares what it's worth short term? It doesn't really matter. Equity is a fake number until you're buying, selling, or trading it. So it doesn't really matter as long as the numbers work. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that. And it's, oh, I want to be put on hold. Well, you get put on hold and you slow that business down completely, especially, real estate agents or lenders or wholesale, whoever it is. But, in general, like, I hate to say it, but you're going to get forgotten about. Like, you still need to be in front doing things. And one thing that I'll never forget, now 2 years ago, my partner Chris, interviewed somebody from Philly, and he was a big real estate agent up there. And he said, during times where people are scared and nervous and they're just uncertain and the market's not great, he goes, I go all in. I push all my cars in on marketing. I want to be in front of everybody. So that being said, that might not mean that I'm going to do any business. Like you just said, I might not buy, I might not lend, but I want to be in front of everybody and have that opportunity as the opportunities come. And let's be honest, we all know that if you're continuing to do that, there's going to be some real low-hanging fruit, cherry pick deals that we can do.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, people freak out about the stock market is that with these rentals, you've got two means of income. One is immediate with your monthly rent, which you're realizing that every month, and then the equity, which is the long-term play with stock. You get dividends, usually going back into the reinvestments. So people are just freaking out, I think, because it's just I don't know how to word it, or they just realize it's gone because it's one income stream, really.
Exactly.
I see a lot of people buy and hold investors kind of go after it. I feel like a lot of offers have come in, and I don't know if that's because people are less active, with being home more, but we're seeing a lot of activity on that side.
What's your thoughts right now related to auctions? Tell us about auctions. I know you bought a lot of auctions. Like, are auctions still open? Are they still auctioning properties? Tell us about that.
Most of them, from what I can tell, are canceled. I see a few that are still posted as that they're going on. Whether they cancel them the day of or the day before, we'll see. But for right now, that's pretty much on hold. But that's, we've done a lot of direct to seller stuff too, and that's what I'm really excited to kind of pump that back up. We were doing, 6 figures a year for the last 2 years in direct to seller marketing. We kind of slowed that down the last couple of months because our acquisitions coordinator took a different role at another. We just kind of got out of real estate altogether. But I'm excited to kind of have a little bit of time to focus on that because, like I said, so many people are, from what I hear, just kind of putting the pause button on it. And the problem with that is that there's a lead time to all that. If you send out mail, it takes 3, 5, 8, 10 days, depending on how you're sending it to get there. Some people need to read it, think about it. And if we're doing that consistently, it's not just you're going to be, if they take a week or a month pause, you'll be that ahead of them. It's like that time plus the lead time getting in front of them. And I think there's going to be some people that just need to sell. They're like, shit, I might have been waited a little too long to get the number I wanted to take it. And, some people will say, hey, well, that's taking advantage of people. It's not. It's what is the value today? That number, the number I was ready to buy it a week ago is going to be a little bit more aggressive than the number I'm ready to buy it today. And that's just the state of what it is. And that number may go back up or it may continue downward in a week or two. I know that you were talking yesterday about like loans. If people loans you approve today, that number could be the same in a week or it could be lower.
Yep.
And consumers need to realize that, whether you're a seller or a borrower or whatever it may be.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason that auctions are closed is because courthouses are closed. Like, why are auctions, like, for instance, like if a real estate agent can sell a house right now, why can't an auctioneer sell a house?
I don't know if it's considered, I honestly don't know the legal answer to that. I think it probably just because whether it could be a gathering of over X amount of people or
that's true. What about online ones? Do you know anything about that or no?
They're still going on from what I can tell. I haven't. We put a lot of offers on those too, but I mean, a lot of those are pretty. I'm looking right now while we're on the horn here, but we're getting a lot of activity. You know, I mentioned, I'm looking right now. There's ones that end in 48 minutes, 23 hours.
Yeah. I figured the online auctions would still be involved. Would still be in the offline auctions. You're right, because you can't have gatherings of a certain amount of people. So that would make sense. And it's interesting because I talked to RJ Breeden. What was that, yesterday? And we were talking about just how the real estate transactions gonna occur now. This virtual setup as getting access to the house. I was told by some title companies, and actually title companies are going to be speaking tomorrow in our virtual meetup group. I'll share some information about that in a second. That, digitally the buyer signs through DocuSign or whatever program, the seller signs by DocuSign. Then there's a third-party notary who's also involved in the transaction that signs and authenticates their signatures. So everything can be done remotely. I think based on where we're at, I don't think people want real estate to crash or have many issues. You can kind of see that based on what title companies are pushing out and what title insurers are doing right now. Like in general, people want real estate to succeed.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this, but from what I read and just some different interpretations I've heard of it, I mean, legal services are qualified as essential under what I've read, and title companies. I think you're right. Title companies are a legal service, so the title companies we use are still doing in-person closings, and that's all still going on. There's no halt to that, and a lot of the counties, I know some don't, but a lot of the counties do online filings. So those are still going through. I mean, some title companies may have made more aggressive changes to do not in-person closings, but our title company is like, hey, we've got a couple right now that we're trying to schedule for later this week, and they're like, just let me know, I'll send the mobile closer out. So we have a loan closing tomorrow in DC, and before I hopped on this call, I was looking at the email and it said, when do you want to close? And it said, we want to close at your office at this particular time. And they're like, great, we'll be here. So again, that's a different conversation if someone thinks that's responsible to currently do or not. But the important part is real estate's still open for business, and it doesn't have to be that way in person. It can still be done digitally. We were talking when we hopped on this phone, we're related to working remotely, like how's your staff doing when working from home and things like that. And in general, we're a small company, we're a lean company, and everything we do is for the most part online anyways, and can be done through our servers and email and things like that. So that makes it nice. And title companies are scanning in packages and emailing them to us, so we have access to everything that we need if we choose not to go to the office. And I'm guessing you guys are probably similar to that. Yeah, I mean, we're working from home, and that's the real thing I'm really interested to see in the next, which I'm sure you've talked about, the next 6, 12, 18 months, is how that changes how a lot of companies operate remotely. And I think it's interesting, a lot of my friends that are in the W-2 space, they're like, oh, I'm working from home, I'm not really working. And then I've got some other friends who are like, man, I'm like really stepping up, and my supervisors are seeing that. I think there's kind of like going to be an interesting ripple effect with people being not let go because their company can't afford them, but just like from people that are like stepping up and working remotely and making their company more efficient, and just kind of like inadvertently like trimming down their company size because they're like, hey, maybe we don't, you save 30 minutes to an hour each way home, and you were getting as much done as 1.5 of the other guys on the team. Why don't we just give you a raise, cut them down? And so just kind of an aside to that, but I think that's going to be like a side effect that's going to happen out of this.
Yeah, no, it does. I don't disagree with that. I think that, we've all talked about every day related to the value of Zoom, how it's just completely skyrocketed. over the last few weeks. I mean, yesterday my kids' classes had a Zoom call with their teacher and everybody involved, and that was great. Like that was the first sign of it. So I think like the whole, and not that people don't communicate via FaceTime or stuff like that in the past, but I think in general, companies are adapting ways that their employees and their staff can work from the house and do things remotely. And again, like that doesn't work on every business. If you're a contractor, obviously that's not going to work. But in general, like that's part of it. It's kind of a new norm, and I like it. I mean, I like that ability, and we've always been very flexible inside our office where if someone needs to take a day and do stuff from home, that's fine. And real estate in general is not typically a business that's like a 9-to-5 setup. There's busy times and there's slow times, and as long as you're available to deal with stuff when there's headaches, you deal with it, and then when there's downtime, you take advantage of that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an exciting time in a lot of ways. I'm excited to kind of go through our business. This is kind of going to force a lot of people just to not even with the employees, but just figure out what's essential and what's not. And I see Ian chiming in there. Real estate's antiquated, and I agree with that. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff that ripples out of that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I can't believe people still go to title companies to do closings. And obviously, like, I understand the need for it, but the title company still needs to be involved. Obviously, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything on that side. I mean that, like, what's the point? Like, let them get everything and then send it to them. But although if you're a first-time home buyer consumer, like, you do need, help and support reading documents. I do understand that. But like typically on my end, it's just, email me the documents. I'll sign them. I'll get them notarized with someone in my office, and then I'll overnight them back to you or send them back to you. But I guess that does make sense for consumers or someone who never really involved in the transaction. I mean, we're each doing hundreds of deals a year, so like it's second nature. But I think giving the option of being able to do stuff remotely is good. Question for you. So what's kind of your guys' game plan for properties that you already bought at the auction? Your deposit's still on hold?
Yeah, a lot of properties we've already assigned. We were, I don't want to say slowing down the last couple of months. I mean, some of the prices have just gotten extremely competitive. So we just try to stick to our model or our numbers and what works. So the last 2 months, we kind of slowed down a little bit with some of the properties we bought inadvertently, which put us in a great spot to not have a ton of inventory. But the ones the ones we have that we're still marketing, we're getting offers on them. Not all of them are maybe the buyers on that side are being a little conservative too. But we're seeing a lot of activity just in interest over the last couple of days. I think we signed one. We did get a signed contract back, I think, last night on one, and then we're sending out, I believe, another one today. Somebody emailed us back an hour ago. We were going back and forth at highest and best. So I think the activity is still there. I think the slowdown that we're going to see, at least short term, is just from the flips. I think the buy and hold investors are like you said, they're kind of, a lot of them are all in all the time, and they might just keep their numbers. But I think the ripples are going to be from the fix and flips. And I don't, you might be able to speak to that a little bit more with the loan request you see on your side, but that's kind of what I'm seeing is increased activity on our buy and hold type properties.
Yeah, I mean, I think fix and flips, I really believe that there's always a need for fix and flips as long as consumers can, or for, first-time home buyers and the general public can still buy a piece of, there's still demand for houses in general. I mean, think about it. I mean, I feel like the fix and flip model works the best in median housing price neighborhoods. I think it's challenging in the upper areas, lack of buyers, and in the lower end areas, but the medium housing price areas, and we all know where those are. I mean, there are properties that resell at $250,000 to $300,000 typically. And I think there's always a demand. I mean, like, look around the neighborhood right now and see how many actives there are. Like, typically, let's say there's 200 properties in a neighborhood, 150, 200 properties in a neighborhood, and there's like a few on the market, and chances are they're probably overpriced, so they're not flying off the market. The ones that are priced good, that are nice properties, are going to sell quickly. That's just the piece. So, I mean, if you are doing fix and flips just like anything else, I think you got to be smart about it. I think you got to get in and out of them as quick as possible. I think you got to buy them at the right numbers. But one of the featured speakers on the call tomorrow texted me today and said he got 3 properties under contract in the last week. When's the last time someone's got 3 properties under contract in a week? It just, it's out there. And, there's an argument of like, did he pay the right price for them? And I don't know the answers to that. But, I think sellers out there are going to get a little nervous, especially unsophisticated sellers, because they're like, is this going to drop? They're going to look at it like the stock market. Like, hey, it's trading at $10 a share. My house is at $100,000 value today. Is it going to drop to 90,000? And when's the time to buy? And the market will tell, what that margin is of what someone's willing to pay for it based on how low someone's willing to unload it for. And, I think if you buy a good property and you can properly execute it and, be responsible in the fix and flip process, I think it's fine. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily do like new construction. Someone reached out to me for new construction today, and I'm like, yeah, probably going to stay away from that unless you have additional collateral that we can tie up or you have a real lot of cash to put in, just because it's a longer term process. Let me ask you a question. Are permit offices closed in Baltimore County?
I heard they were, but I know construction's also deemed essential, but I don't know if that qualifies for, the permitting. I saw somebody in one of the forums yesterday posting that I think one of them was closed, or maybe they have adjusted hours or went to online only.
Yeah, and online only is good if something like that happens. But like you close a permit office and you can't get inspections, then code enforcement can't sign off on stuff. Like that puts construction on a halt. And I don't think that is the case either. I think they still want to move forward. I know that we had an electrical inspection and they did it. They didn't even go in the house. They just did it from outside, or they won't go in the house if someone's living in the house. If it's vacant, they will. If not, they did it exterior. And I think I don't want to say cutting corners. That's probably not the right answer, but like, I think they're being precautious on it. But again, like, I think the real estate market as a whole wants to be intact and doesn't want to get majorly disrupted, besides the the lack of consumer confidence with it right now. So I think that's what's kind of driving things. I mean, interest rates are still low. Banks are still lending. You could still get a loan if you're qualified. I mean, it's not like 10 plus years ago where a big issue was banks were lending to individuals that weren't qualified to begin with. I mean, hate to say it, but it's like not all that easy to get a bank loan. You need to have good credit. You need to have cash. You need to have, good financials, income, stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think you were talking a little bit about the properties we have under contract. I think what the fix and flippers and I'd be curious your take on this, is that a lot of guys that were getting private money or dealing with some of these hard money lenders, a lot of flippers that aren't well capitalized, you're going to see them not be able to close on deals or not be able to take down new deals. And
yep.
I think that's going to be good for the people that have capital, that have experience, that can take down properties, that say, hey, I can put 10, 20, 30% down or whatever it may be, or I have enough to start the first draw or the second draw. I think that's going to be that fix and flippers are going to see here in the next 1 to 3 months.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because like banks want to lend, we want to lend. Anyone who has available liquidity and cash, they want to lend. Some of these bigger institutional backed hard money lenders went out of business as their business decreased because some of these larger note buyers got out of the game for uncertainty. But again, anyone who's trying to do stuff, and this is another thing I was talking about the other day, anyone who wants to do stuff in scale, I think that's going to be challenging right now. But I think if you're small and lean and you can pivot, I think it's fine. I think if you're flipping 100 houses right now and you have to flip 100 houses and you have a humongous marketing budget right now, I think it's going to be challenging. But I think if you're doing a few projects, doesn't matter if you're a real estate agent, a lender, a flipper, a wholesaler, a rental. If you have a few projects going at any given time, I think you're going to be in a good spot because you can give them personalized attention as needed. And I know that's our game plan. Like we're doing about 25 loans a month at Hard Money Bankers. And if we still get the right 25 loans a month, we'll continue to do them. But if not, we're going to do every good deal that we can get our hands on, the right deal. And Our clients probably are going to need a little bit more cash now. I think our deal quality will end up going a little bit higher, because I think deal quality in general is going to be higher. People can buy properties for cheaper. The right investors that have cash, have experience, that know what they're doing are going to be fine. Don't get me wrong. I think newer investors are able to navigate this market as well, and they should. This is the time to take advantage of it and look. But it will be a nice thing where like you don't have to just get outbid by like 10 people.
Yeah.
And,
no, I think it's going to be good for a lot of people long term. I mean, it's going to be bad for some people, but
yeah, it's going to be unfortunate. Unfortunately, keep in mind, like, we're not that we're being like over rosy related to real estate investing, but like we're keeping this topic on real estate. Like, there's a lot of unfortunate things out there. I mean, the restaurant industry right now, it's so unfortunate. And a lot of people, it's just the luck of the, unfortunate. There's just some business models that, are tough, but hoping, and I've talked, and no one has a crystal ball, but the hope is that you can weather the storm for like a few months and then get back to regular business come summertime. And who knows if that's really going to happen or not, but like hoping that's the case. And we'll see.
Yeah.
What, anything I missed? Anything you want to add related to what you're seeing out there? Like anything crazy? What's like, it seems to me that, again, you're not sidelined, but you're also not proactively, trying to get every darn deal you can get. I mean, is your game plan, you think, from now to the end of the year to be active, market, try to get as many opportunities in front of you, and then kind of just pick the best ones that work?
Yeah, I think we just our plan is to adjust our buying criteria a little bit. Again, maybe more on the flips than the buy and holds. And we've, over the last 2 years, we've worked on building our rental portfolio so that we've got, multiple streams of income, and not like multiple streams in 7 different businesses like a lot of people like to do, but, all things are complementary. And we've come across a lot of good rental properties, and just having that income come in. I know some people are like, well, they might forgo rental payments, all that, and that's all hypothetical if that's what happens.
Yeah.
Again, I think being well capitalized, going with being able to roll with the punches is important. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that comes out of this for a lot of people, is making sure that they have legitimate capital reserves. And I see a lot of people operate real lean on that side. They just aren't really ready for any uncertainty. I mean, last year we had the same hiccup where with the, to me, this is kind of like last year when, and it's funny how fast we forget things, but last year when Baltimore City got hacked and there were no closings for like a while, there were, and they figured out ways to do it with the affidavits and other stuff and holding escrows. But for our stuff that was, wholesaling and assignments of contracts and so forth, it's kind of in a, it's not a homeowner to homeowner transaction. A lot of title companies were like, well, we don't want to close these at all right now until this. So there was like I want to say like a 45 to 60 day delay we had on like a lot of closings. It was over like 6 figures of income we had that was put on hold. We had, kind of planned for something, a rainy day, I guess. And this just kind of reminds me of that, whatever happens. And right now everything's still kind of chugging along. But if they were to shut things down, or if they don't, just being prepared for uncertainty, I think, is what a lot of people fail to do.
Hey, what do you think the backup process is going to be when things come back online with offline auctions and courthouses and things like that? Recordings, because right now a lot of recordings that, like, I think Baltimore City, they can't digitally record it, but it's just going to sit in a stack and then they'll record it one by one. I think that's the case in the city. Like how long will that take? Like, right? I mean, I talked to you about a deal that we're going to be doing a loan on for these clients, and they've had this property under contract with their wholesaler from, and you're not the wholesaler on the deal, but it's in Baltimore County, and October, I think. Like, how quick do you think some of this stuff's going to go through when everyone's back up and running?
I want to say it would go quick, because obviously if there wasn't anything going through, there's going to be less of a flow through the courts or whatever. But we've had some properties get ready to settle in the last like 5 to 7 days that were approved, and that we're like, hey, like everything's ready to go on this. So things are still moving. I think everything's just kind of like day by day right now. But no, we've had deals get approved and we're ready to roll on. So, I mean, it's kind of exciting. I'm like, I don't know if that's because everything stopped and now they can get caught up or whatever it may be, but.
Got it.
So again, just uncertainty, but everything's moving, which is promising.
Yeah. So just a reminder, tomorrow we're doing a massive virtual meetup group with, so myself and then Terry, my business partner, Chris, and then Ian Horowitz are going to be hosting it. And then we have about 15 to 20 guest speakers, featured speakers, free for everybody. We're doing it via Zoom. There's the link, hardmoneybankers.com/March 25th. It'll put you onto our meetup site, and then you can access the Zoom link and everything through there. We do ask that you register. So we only have 500 seats or spots available on Zoom. And that's the only way to access it. So you have to go through Zoom. It's Zoom. It's virtual, online. It'll be super easy. So we're going to go one by one and go through everybody, all the featured guests, and just ask them their stuff. And some of our guests are flippers, some commercial lenders, some commercial realtors, different real estate agents and lenders in actually different markets, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. We have someone that does high-end vacation rentals and sales. We have some self-storage, Airbnb. What am I missing? Construction. Yeah, construction. It is a little bit of everything. Construction, a home builder, a title company and title attorney. So everything related to what we're all talking about. And the good part about it is I've talked to every single one of them individually. So like I'm very up to date, I feel, on like what their thoughts are and what's happening in the market. And that's allowed me to pivot inside our business to determine what's best for us. I mean, my concerns are, can a real estate transaction get through with a title company? And my other big concern is can construction do stuff? And I think for the most part, it seems like they can, because, if I do a loan to a real estate investor who's fixing and flipping a house and they can't fix and flip that house because they can't get their construction's on hold, that's an issue. So it'll be good. You're not going to want to miss it. It'll be fun. Originally, it was from 1:30 to 3:30. We changed it to 1:30 to 4:30. It might even be longer than that, but we're going to try to stick to those 3 hours. We also want to give people time to do Q&A as necessary afterwards. So we'll see where that goes, but it's going to be fun. Make sure you're there, hardmoneybankers.com/March 25th. It'll take you to the meetup site where you can register. It's free. If you've ever been to our meetup groups, no one sells anything. We're not gurus. We're just all here, local real estate investors doing deals together. So that's it, Terry. You got anything else to add?
No, man, I'm excited to hear from some of the people tomorrow, like what the title company's take is on what they're seeing, what they're expecting. Short-term rental market people. I think it's going to be a broad spectrum of people that are in the industry. It should be pretty cool.
Yeah, the one issue that Ian and more Ian fears than me is like we're gonna have to move through people because 10 minutes is it's a short period of time to ask people's insight, but it's gonna be fun. Kelly Cummins, thanks for commenting. Certainly appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow as well. All right, Terry. Well, you want to put your mask on again since you got to go back out there?
Got to go back out in the streets.
And do your thing. All right. Everyone stay safe.
Do my thing.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and I guess be opportunistic. And we'll see what happens in the world of real estate investing. Until next time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jason.